The bedroom ceiling had exactly 47 cracks. I'd counted them 312 times over the past 6 months. Lying in this bed that used to belong to my daughter before the accident, the cream-colored paint was peeling near the corner where the roof leaked last spring, and sometimes, when the light hit it just right through the lace curtains, it looked like a map of somewhere I'd never been. A place I'd never get to go. My name is Margaret. I'm 68 years old, a retired librarian from the Seattle Public Library System, and until last night, I thought the worst thing that had happened to me was burying my only daughter 2 years ago in a grave overlooking Puget Sound. I was wrong. What I didn't know when I closed my eyes that Tuesday evening was that my daughter-in-law had been waiting patiently, carefully for me to become vulnerable enough to destroy. By dawn, I would hear her planning something so unthinkable that even now, my hands shake when I remember the cold satisfaction in her voice as she whispered into her phone in my darkened room. Before I tell you what happened in those terrifying hours between midnight and morning, I need you to understand something about how YouTube works. The algorithm decides who sees the ending of this story based on one thing: engagement. If you're not subscribed, if you don't leave a comment telling me where you're watching from, YouTube assumes you're not interested and stops showing you the content. I've seen people spend hours searching for part 2 of stories they never got to finish. Don't let that be you. Subscribe right now. Comment your city below. Because what I discovered about my daughter-in-law's plan, you won't believe it even when I tell you. So let me take you back to where it started. To the moment I should have seen the truth, but chose to look away instead. My son Daniel married Jessica 4 years ago in a ceremony at the Volunteer Park Conservatory. She wore white silk and carried calla lilies, and when she smiled at me that day, I remember thinking how lucky we were, how lucky Daniel was. My daughter Sarah had died just 6 months before a drunk driver on I-5, gone in an instant, and Jessica seemed like a gift, a second chance at family. She was 32, a real estate agent with a warm laugh and a way of making Daniel light up when she entered a room. She said all the right things about wanting to take care of me as I got older, about how family was everything, about how she'd always wanted a mother figure in her life. I should have wondered why her own family never visited. Should have asked more questions about the parents she claimed lived back east but never called. Should have noticed how quickly she moved into our family home in the Queen Anne neighborhood. How seamlessly she convinced Daniel that I needed looking after, even though I was perfectly healthy. But I was lonely. God, I was so lonely after Sarah died. And when Jessica got pregnant with Emma, just 8 months after the wedding, I felt something I hadn't felt since the accident. Hope, a granddaughter. A chance to pour all the love I'd been holding for Sarah into this new little life. Emma is for now. 4 years old with Sarah's eyes, my daughter's exact shade of green, and a laugh that sounds like wind chimes. She calls me Nana and sleeps in my bed when she has nightmares about monsters under her crib. She's the only pure thing left in this house that smells like Jessica's expensive candles and carries the weight of too many secrets. The medicine started 6 months ago, just after my 68th birthday, when I'd mentioned to Jessica that I'd been having trouble sleeping. The house was too quiet at night, I'd said. Too many memories in the walls. She'd been so understanding, so concerned. She'd made an appointment with her doctor, not mine. Hers, and came home with a prescription for something she said would help me rest. Just until you feel better, Margaret, she'd said, pressing the orange bottle into my hands. Dr. Chen said, it's very mild, perfectly safe. The pills were small and white and made the world soft around the edges. Made the cracks in the ceiling blur into clouds. Made the grief feel manageable, contained, like something happening to someone else in another room. But they also made me tired. So tired that some days I couldn't get out of bed until noon. Tired enough that I stopped going to my book club at the Elliott Bay Book Company. Stopped meeting my friend Dorothy for coffee at the Starbucks on Queen Anne Avenue. Stopped being myself and started being this vague, floating thing that existed mostly in bed, counting ceiling cracks and waiting for Emma to visit. She's getting worse. I'd hear Jessica tell Daniel in the hallway outside my room. I'm worried about her, honey. Maybe we should think about you. No. A facility. Somewhere with nurses who can watch her. Around the clock. And Daniel, my sweet boy who worked 70-hour weeks at his architectural firm downtown, who looked so exhausted every time I saw him, would sigh. Let's give it a little more time. She's still Mom. She's still in there. But was I? Some days I wasn't sure. The pills made everything fuzzy. Made time stretch and compress in strange ways. Made me wonder if Jessica was right. If I was losing myself. If the grief had finally eaten through whatever was left of the person I used to be. Last night was different, though. Last night, I'd been too tired to take the evening pill. I'd pretended to swallow it when Jessica brought it with my dinner, but I'd tucked it under my tongue instead. Let it dissolve into bitter chalk and spit it into a tissue when she left. I don't know why I did it. Some instinct, some small voice that said, "Stay awake. Pay attention. Something's wrong." So when my bedroom door opened at 3:17 in the morning, the red numbers on my clock radio, glowing like warning lights, I was awake. Completely, crystallinely awake. I kept my eyes closed, kept my breathing slow and even, the way you do when you're pretending to sleep and hoping whoever's there will leave. But Jessica didn't leave. She crossed the room in bare feet that made no sound on the hardwood floor. I felt her presence beside my bed, felt her studying me. The air smelled like her lavender body lotion and something else. Something metallic and wrong, like fear or excitement or both. Then I heard the sound of my nightstand drawer sliding open, the rustle of her hands searching through my things, the soft click of my phone being lifted. The screen lighting up. I could see the glow through my closed eyelids like a tiny sun. She was in my phone, typing something. I heard the soft tap 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 of her thumbs on the screen, heard her breathing speed up slightly, heard her whisper, "Yes, yes, she's unconscious. Completely out. The medication is working exactly like you said it would." My heart stopped. Actually stopped for what felt like a full second before slamming back into rhythm so hard I thought she'd hear it. But I kept my eyes closed, kept my breathing steady, every muscle in my body screaming to move, to sit up, to demand what the hell she was doing. But some survival instinct, older than thought, kept me frozen. "Tomorrow," she whispered into her phone. "We do it tomorrow. She takes the morning dose around 8, and then, yes, I understand. Make sure. The paperwork is ready. We'll need to move fast once she's gone. Gone." The word hung in the dark air like a blade. She was quiet for a moment, listening to whoever was on the other end. Then, "Daniel won't suspect anything. He's barely home. He thinks she's just depressed, getting senile. He'll be relieved, honestly. One less thing to worry about." A pause. "The life insurance policy is $200,000. We split it 60-40 like we agreed. You handled the death certificate, I handled the family." I felt vomit rising in my throat. Felt the world tilting sideways even though I was lying completely still. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. But Jessica's voice was so calm, so businesslike, like she was discussing a real estate transaction instead of my murder. "I need to go," she whispered. "I'll text you in the morning before I give her the final dose. Yes, I love you too. I love you too." Not Daniel, someone else, someone helping her. Someone who could fake a death certificate. A doctor. Had to be. Dr. Chen. The doctor who'd prescribed the pills that were slowly killing me. The doctor Jessica had been sleeping with. The doctor who would sign off on natural causes while they collected my life insurance and split the money and probably got rid of Daniel too, eventually. Once Emma was old enough that courts would let Jessica have full custody and Daniel's life insurance policy could be added to mine. She put my phone back in the drawer, closed it. Softly. I felt her lean over me, felt her breath on my face. "Sleep well, Margaret," she whispered. "Tomorrow's a big day." Then she was gone, door clicking shut behind her, and I was alone in the dark with the knowledge that my daughter-in-law was planning to murder me in approximately 5 hours. I didn't move for a long time. Couldn't move. My mind was racing too fast for my body to keep up, spinning through possibilities and plans and escape routes that all seemed impossible. Call the police. With what evidence? My word against hers? And I was the one on medication that made me confused and forgetful. Tell Daniel. He was so tired, so worn down, and he loved Jessica. Would he believe me? Could I risk it if he didn't? And then there was Emma. Sweet Emma, who loved her mama, who would be devastated if Jessica went to prison. Emma, who might end up in foster care if both her parents were gone. Emma, who was innocent in all of this and deserved better than to be caught in the middle of her grandmother's murder and her mother's arrest. I had to be smart, had to be strategic, had to survive long enough to gather proof. The clock said 4:33 when I finally sat up. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely grip the edge of the nightstand. I pulled out my phone, the one Jessica had just been using to coordinate my death. And I did something I never thought I'd do. I installed a recording app, set it to start automatically at 7:30 a.m., hid it in a folder, labeled recipes, because Jessica would never look there. She didn't cook. Then I went to my closet and found the lockbox where I kept my important documents. Birth certificate. Sarah's death certificate. The deed to this house that was in my name, not Daniel's, not Jessica's. My name, my house, my life insurance policy that I'd taken out 20 years ago when my husband was still alive, that I'd forgotten about until Jessica mentioned it in her midnight phone call. I'd changed the beneficiary. After Sarah died, made it Daniel. But now? Now I needed to change it again. Needed to make sure that, if something happened to me, Jessica wouldn't see a dime. I couldn't do it tonight. The bank didn't open until 9, but I could do it tomorrow. If I survived tomorrow? The sky was starting to lighten over Elliott Bay when I heard Emma's door open down the hall. Heard her little feet padding toward my room. She did this sometimes, crawled into bed with me in the early morning, her small body warm and trusting against my side. "Nana," she whispered, pushing open my door. "You awake?" I almost told her no, almost pretended to still be asleep. But looking at her standing there in her purple pajamas with the unicorns on them, her blonde hair a mess around her face, I couldn't lie. Not to her. Not to this child who had Sarah's eyes. "I'm awake, sweetheart. Come here." She climbed into bed beside me, curled into my arms like a small cat, seeking warmth. She smelled like baby shampoo and innocence. "I had a bad dream," she whispered. "Monsters were trying to take you away." My throat closed. "It was just a dream, baby. I'm right here. Promise you won't leave me, like Aunt Sarah did." I held her tighter. "I promise I'm going to do everything I can to stay right here with you." She fell back asleep in my arms, her breathing soft and even against my chest. I stayed awake, watching the sun rise over the city I'd lived in my entire life, the city where I'd raised my children and buried my daughter and was now fighting to stay alive long enough to protect my granddaughter from the truth about her mother. At 7:15, Jessica knocked on my door. "Margaret, time for your morning medication." I pretended to stir, pretended to wake up slowly. Emma was still sleeping beside me, her small hand curled in mine. "Jessica, what time is it?" "A little after 7. I brought your pills." She was holding a glass of water and the small white pill that I now knew was poison. Not immediately lethal, that would be too obvious, but cumulative. Slowly shutting down my organs, making me weaker and more confused until my death would look natural, Expected, even sad but not suspicious. My phone was recording in the recipe folder. I just needed to get her to say something. Anything. I'm so tired, I said, my voice weak. Are you sure I need to take these? They make me feel so strange. Jessica's smile was patient, practiced. Dr. Chen prescribed them specifically for you. Margaret, they're helping you rest, helping you heal. Heal from what? From the grief, from the depression. Don't you remember? You've been so sad since Sarah died. These pills help with that. Emma stirred beside me, opened her eyes. Mama. Jessica's expression tightened. Just for a second. So fast, I would have missed it if I wasn't looking for it. Emma, honey, go back to your room. Nana needs to take her medicine. I want to stay with Nana. Emma, now. Something in Jessica's voice made Emma flinch, made her climb out of bed without another word. Her small shoulders hunched as she left the room. The door closed behind her with a soft click. We were alone. Jessica and I, predator and prey. Except I wasn't prey anymore. I was a grandmother with a recording app and a plan, and nothing left to lose. I'll take the pill, I said quietly. But first, tell me something. How long have you been planning this? Jessica froze. The smile stayed fixed on her face, but her eyes went cold. Calculating, planning, what? Margaret? My murder? How long? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I watched her face cycle through emotions, surprise, confusion, fear, anger before settling on something worse, calm, complete, terrifying calm. You were supposed to be asleep, she said softly. You took your pill last night. You should be unconscious. I didn't take it. I heard you. I heard everything. The phone call, the plan, Dr. Chen, the life insurance, all of it. She didn't deny. It didn't even try. Instead, she set down the water glass very carefully on my nightstand and sat on the edge of my bed. Then, I guess we have a problem, don't we? You're going to kill me anyway, aren't you? Even now that I know. Jessica tilted her head, studying me like I was a particularly interesting problem in a real estate contract. I don't want to, Margaret. I really don't. You've been good to Emma, but you're in the way. This house is worth almost $2 million. The life insurance is another $200,000 and Daniel Sweet. Trusting Daniel will inherit everything when you're gone. And when something unfortunate happens to him in a few years, after a respectful period of mourning, Emma and I will have everything. A good life. Security. Everything Sarah took from me when she died and left you so pathetically devoted to her memory that you couldn't see what was happening right in front of you. Sarah didn't take anything from you. She took Daniel's attention, his time, his money. Do you know how much he spent on her funeral? How much he still spends on flowers for her grave every week? That should be Emma's money. My money. Not wasted on a dead woman. I felt rage then. Pure, crystalline rage that burned through the fear and gave me clarity. You're not going to get away with this. Jessica smiled. Actually smiled. Who's going to stop me? You. A confused old woman on medication that affects her memory and judgment. Daniel. He's so busy, he barely knows what day it is. The police. With what evidence? Your word against mine, and you've been so unstable lately. Margaret. So paranoid. Talking about plots and conspiracies. Maybe we do need to look at that facility after all. Somewhere with padded rooms and nurses who can keep you from hurting yourself. She reached for the pill, held it out to me. Take it. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, but either way, you're taking this pill. That's when Emma's voice came from the doorway. Nana. We both turned. Emma was standing there in her unicorn pajamas, her face streaked with tears, her small body shaking. Nana, are you dead? Mama said you were going to die today. I heard her on the phone. I heard her say Nana's going to be gone, and then we'll have all her money, and we can move to California. The look on Jessica's face, in that moment, pure, undiluted panic, was the most beautiful thing I'd ever seen. "Emma, baby, you misunderstood," Jessica started. But Emma was already running down the hallway, screaming for her daddy. Screaming that Mama was trying to hurt Nana. Screaming with the kind of hysteria that only a 4-year-old who's just learned that monsters are real can achieve. I grabbed my phone from the nightstand, stopped the recording, sent it to my email, to the cloud, to 3 different backup services. Then I called 911. Jessica stood there, frozen, as I calmly told the dispatcher that my daughter-in-law had just attempted to force me to take medication that she'd admitted was meant to kill me, that I had a recording of her confession, that my granddaughter had witnessed her plans, and that I needed police and possibly child protective services at my address immediately. "You can't do this," Jessica whispered. "You'll destroy Emma's life. She'll end up in foster care. Is that what you want?" "No," I said quietly. "What I want is for my granddaughter to grow up knowing that women don't have to be victims, that we fight back, that we survive, and what I want is for you to never touch my family again." The police arrived in 11 minutes. Daniel arrived in 15, his face white with shock, still wearing the suit he'd slept in at the office. Emma was crying in the arms of a female officer who was doing her best to explain what domestic violence resources looked like, what emergency custody arrangements could be made, what happens when a parent goes to jail for attempted murder. Dr. Chen was arrested 4 hours later at his practice in Capitol Hill. The police found records of dozens of patients, mostly elderly, mostly wealthy, who had died under his care after being prescribed similar medications. Jessica had been his accomplice for 3 years, targeting vulnerable family members, collecting life insurance, splitting the proceeds. I was supposed to be number 17. I wasn't. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my living room watching Emma draw pictures at the coffee table. Daniel moved back in after the divorce was finalized. He's home by 6 every night now, cooking dinner, doing bedtime stories, being the father Emma deserves. He's in therapy. We both are. Some wounds take time to heal. Jessica is awaiting trial. Dr. Chen is in federal prison, and I'm alive. I still count the cracks in the ceiling sometimes. Still have moments when the fear comes back. When I wake up at 3 in the morning and remember the sound of her voice whispering she's unconscious into her phone. But then I get up, walk down the hall, and check on Emma sleeping peacefully in her room. And I remember why I survived. Not for me, for her. For this little girl with Sarah's eyes who needs to know that her Nana didn't give up. That women in our family fight. That we protect each other. That we survive. The house still smells like Jessica's candles sometimes. I've been meaning to throw them out. But Emma likes the vanilla one. Says it reminds her of birthday cake, so I keep it. Light it on Sundays when we make pancakes. Together, when Daniel teaches her how to measure flour, and she gets it all over her unicorn pajamas, and we laugh until our sides hurt. This is what Jessica didn't understand. Couldn't understand. Money can't buy this. Can't buy the sound of Emma's laugh, or the way Daniel hugs me goodnight, or the simple, profound peace of being alive and together and safe. I'm 68 years old, a retired librarian, a widow, a mother, a survivor, and I'm going to be here to watch Emma grow up. Going to be here to teach her how to be strong, how to trust her instincts, how to know when someone's smile doesn't match their eyes. Going to be here to tell her this story someday, when she's old enough to understand. Going to tell her that her Nana heard her own funeral being planned and decided that death would have to wait, because I have too much living left to do.